Tonight, the president arrives in Georgia after Hurricane Michael devastates parts of the state. And
want to find out why I have turnip greens in this cattle trailer? Stay tuned to find out.
Tonight, the Jackson County Board of Commissioners will discuss rezoning the piece of land behind me from residential to industrial. I'll tell you why not everyone is excited.
I'm Brian Cafferty, and today is the first day for early voting in Georgia. Coming up, I'm going to be telling you about when and where you can do your early voting in Athens-Clarke County.
This is Northeast Georgia's only local source for TV news. From the Grady College at the University of Georgia, this is Grady News Source.
It's Monday, October 15th. I'm Benjamin Epstein.
And I'm Kristen Rary. We begin tonight with President Trump's visit to Georgia after Hurricane Michael swept through our state. The president landed at Warner Robins Air Force Base in the last hour. He is here to tour hard-hit parts of the state where a child died, homes are destroyed, and crops are in ruins. Earlier today in Florida, the president and First Lady spoke with first responders at its aid distribution center in Lynn Haven. Those first responders will also be working on relief efforts in Georgia.
Northeast Georgia is also rallying to help the victims of Hurricane Michael. Grady News Source reporter Cheyenne Brown was in Jackson County, where the sheriff's office is spearheading one of those efforts.
This is not our first time doing this. We helped out South Carolina. Our sheriff, she's just a loving and caring sheriff.
The Jackson County Sheriff's Office is taking part again in helping hurricane victims. The office is collecting toiletries, clothing items, water, and canned goods. Sheriff Janice Mangum asked the people for their help on her Facebook page. On October 12th, she made the announcement of the department's participation. The West Jackson Fire Department kicked off the donation by donating over 20 cases of water. The first truck will be delivered this Thursday, October 18th, in the jail parking lot, but you can still drop off donations prior to. The sheriff's office isn't the only ones getting involved. Shirley's Feed and Seed has a donation trailer of their own.
We're delivering Wednesday morning. We're going to take a load, try to fill this bad boy up and take a load to Southwest Baptist Church in Bainbridge.
I'm here in Commerce, Georgia at Shirley's Feed and Seed, where this trailer was dropped off this morning, and let's see what's inside so far. A woman just dropped off 12 big cans of canned goods, and we also have a box of water and some peanut butter and other canned goods. But this trailer will be here until Wednesday morning, so make sure if you want to donate that you stop by Shirley Feed and Seed and donate today.
We're already dropping off supplies at Shirley's Feed and Seed while we were there. A controversial rezoning application is up for debate tonight in Jackson County. Developers are trying to get land rezoned to build warehouses in an area that is currently zoned residential. Grady News Source reporter Casey Rose has been talking with people who live in the area and joins us live. Casey.
I'm outside the room where this public hearing is happening at 6 p.m. at the Jackson County Courthouse. Now, I've been all over Jackson County reporting this story today, and the gist that I've gathered is that a lot of people don't think rezoning this property is a good idea.
You know, these were almost all taken here.
Marty Thrasher has lived in this home for 31 years. She raised her kids here.
This is where they grew up. This is where they went to school. The school bus stopped right there at the mailbox. And
the Thrasher home is in one of the neighborhoods that borders the land on Josh Perkle Road up for rezoning. I visited the land earlier today to see exactly what that rezoning means from a development standpoint. While I was driving up Josh Perkle Road, bright blue public notice signs like this one lined the street. Now, if you look closely at what the public notice actually says, you can see that this application is trying to change the character of the land from residential to industrial to make room for what would be this warehouse development. Adair Realty is the one applying for this rezoning. They plan to put in a group of warehouses on the land. They say it's going to bring jobs and tax revenue to Jackson County. Thrasher thinks it'll do more harm than good for the people who live around the property.
they're going to leave. And that's like having family leave. I mean, all of a sudden you feel like you got to move and migrate out because, you know, you're going to have all the noise and the pollution back there.
She's not alone. More than 50 letters of opposition have been filed against the proposition, and a petition on change.org has almost 900 signatures.
Now, I reached out to several members of the boards of commissioners, and I haven't heard a response to what their opinion is on this proposal. Now, opponents of this rezoning application are all planning to show up wearing red to show their opposition to the Jackson County Board of Commissioners. Now, I'll be live tweeting this meeting from the Grady News Source Twitter, so make sure you follow us. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thanks for that, Casey. Well, Kristen, the Jackson County Sheriff's Office says they still don't know what led to a death of a man whose body was found in the local park.
That's right. We first brought you this story last Thursday as breaking news. The unidentified man was found at Creek Sells Mill Park on Jackson Trail Road.
Yes, Kristen, and the autopsy results suggest no sign of foul play so far. Anyone with information is asked to contact the Jackson County Sheriff's Office anonymous tip line.
We saw a big turnout in Athens for the first day of early voting. Grady News Source reporter Brian Cafferty talked to some of those early voters who were motivated to cast their ballots the first chance they got.
Today at the Board of Elections office on Washington Street in downtown Athens, voters cast their first ballots of the election season. People lined up before 8 this morning, and the line grew steadily into the afternoon. I caught up with some of these early voters who had different reasons for voting as early as possible.
Because it's hard for me to stand in line a long time, and besides, I just want to get my vote in and make sure it's cast.
I'm a survivor of cancer, and I said that I was going to come out because it wouldn't be too much of a crowd.
Director of Elections Charlotte Sosby says she was surprised by today's turnout.
2016, it was a lot like this. But this is not usual for a gubernatorial election. Again, we've had a line since we opened this morning.
Some voters said they think this election is one of the most important in years.
Georgia has been behind a long time, and I feel like that it's time for a change.
It's the only time that a citizen really has a voice. It is the only time we have a voice.
Sosby says all voters need to cast an early vote is to make sure they're registered and bring a valid voter ID. Brian Cafferty, Grady News Source.
The Board of Elections office will be open for voting, early voting, every week, Monday until Friday, until November 2nd. Additional locations will open later this month.
And speaking of early voting, Kristen, some counties have been prepping for this day for months. I sat down with the director and chair of Oconee County's Board of Elections to learn how Oconee County is getting ready for November 6th.
Breezy weather signals a start for many in Oconee County. For Fran Davis and her staff, though, this fall has seemingly been underway for a while now.
I'm Fran Davis, and I am the director and chair of the board for Oconee County Board of Elections.
Davis has served as the director and chair for Oconee County Board of Elections since 2007 and is a third-generation employee of this election board.
So my mom and my grandmother both have worked in elections, so it's sort of been in my family.
Even with all of this experience and background, Davis says she still occasionally gets nervous.
Yes, all the time, especially the day of. Leading up to it, it's okay, but election day, it can get a little nervous, but so far so good. We've done well.
To combat these nerves, Davis and her staff have tried to get ahead this year.
And we're planning lots of things in advance this year that in the past that we have just sort of waited on just because we think of the turnout might be larger than we expected.
It is this commitment to her community that Davis says she will be most proud of looking back on her career.
Holding fair and safe elections for Oconee County. They have come out, they've turned out great, and we're really, really proud of that so far, and I think we're going to be proud of that in the future.
Georgia election employees such as Davis will be working to make sure this year's elections run safely and smoothly. Stick with Grady News Source for what you need to know about midterms, and be sure to tune in for our November 6th election show. A student group at Georgia Tech says David Senator Perdue grabbed a student's phone while he tried to ask about his support for Brian Kemp. Now that video has gone viral. Grady News Source reporter Janie Bowman is live in the newsroom with the video and the controversy surrounding it.
Senator David Perdue was at Georgia Tech's campus on Saturday for a Brian Kemp event when a student approached him asking about his support for Kemp in the race for governor.
How can you endorse a candidate who's going to... I'm not doing it.
You stole my property. You stole my property.
All right, you wanted a
give
picture?
Me my phone back.
You wanted a picture? I'm going to give it to you.
Give me my phone back, Senator.
Thanks. me my phone. That's U.S. Senator David Perdue. U.S. Senator David Perdue just snatched my phone because he won't.
Kemp is Georgia's Secretary of State and has come under fire for Georgia's exact match name verification requirement. His opponent, Stacey Abrams, told us last week that tens of thousands of voter registrations are on hold. The Young Democratic Socialists of America group at Georgia Tech posted the video and condemned Senator Perdue for his actions. They say they believe he committed robbery by taking. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thanks, Janie. This afternoon, we reached out to Senator David Perdue's office staff. They told us he thought that the student was asking for a picture, and that's why he took the phone. When he realized he was being asked a question, he returned it.
Coming up, Hurricane Michael has destroyed more than homes. Georgia's pecan crop also took an enormous hit. How farmers are desperately trying to salvage what they can.
Our interview with gubernatorial candidate Brian Kemp campaigning in Northeast Georgia today.
It's kind of fun. We know the area, know a lot of good people that are working hard for us.
Also tonight, Athens reacts to the synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh.
What happened yesterday will not break us.
Plus this story.
Wildlife is everywhere in a rural state like Georgia. What do you do when that wildlife gets into your home? Stay tuned to find out.
This is Northeast Georgia's only local source for TV news. From the Grady College at the University of Georgia, this is Grady News Source.
I'm Elliott.
And I'm Jillian Gillard. We caught up with Republican gubernatorial candidate Brian Kemp today as he campaigned in Northeast Georgia. Grady News Source reporter Erin Valley is live at the Tate Student Center, where you can vote early beginning tomorrow.
Good job. Thanks, Jillian. I interviewed Brian Kemp earlier today in Watkinsville at the Oconee Veterans Park, and then I followed him to Jefferson, Georgia. Now, he told me it's nice to be campaigning in the community that he calls home.
Well, certainly I know this area well. I mean, I grew up obviously in Athens, so it's definitely home for me.
Republican gubernatorial nominee and current Secretary of State Brian Kemp said it's good to be home.
It's kind of fun. We know the area, know a lot of good people that are working hard for us.
With only 1 week left until Election Day, the Athens native visited Oconee Veterans Park this morning, garnering support not only for himself, but for local Republican candidates as well.
Figure out how many votes Donald Trump got in Oconee County in 2016. Make it your mission for Brian Kemp and this whole Republican ticket to get more votes than the last presidential election.
Now, Brian Kemp's Road to Victory bus tour also brought him right here to Jefferson, Georgia, and he brought along Governor Nathan Deal, who had a special announcement to share. After endorsing Kemp, current Governor Nathan Deal said he and the GOP candidate would be back in Jackson County soon with what he called a special economic development announcement. Kemp says keeping the economy strong is one of his top priorities, along with cutting government spending and putting Georgians before illegal immigrants. I asked Kemp about former President Jimmy Carter's letter asking him to resign as Secretary of State in light of accusations he has worked to suppress the minority vote.
I think that's just another political stunt by the Democrats to really have the extreme agenda that I talked about this morning.
Tonight, and whether you're voting for him or Democratic candidate Stacey Abrams. Now, Brian Kemp will be in Monroe, Georgia until 8 o'clock tonight. Now, whether you're voting for him or Democratic candidate Stacey Abrams, you can cast your ballot here at the Tate Student Center if you're registered to vote in Athens tomorrow and Wednesday. Erin Valley, Grady News Source.
We also talked with Stacey Abrams. She visited Athens a few weeks ago. I talked with her on campus as she campaigned for votes.
53,000, but the reality is we've got a secret weapon. You see, I've met the Secretary of State. I've fought him and I know what his tricks are. And he's a one-trick pony when it comes to voter suppression.
Abrams hopes to become the nation's first female African-American governor.
One of the more controversial amendments on this year's ballot is Amendment 4. Grady News Source reporter Maddie Ray breaks down the Crime Victims' Rights Amendment, or Marcy's Law.
When you vote,
you'll eventually find your way to the bottom of the ballot where you'll see this question. Shall the Constitution of Georgia be amended so as to provide certain rights to victims against whom a crime has allegedly been perpetrated and allow victims to assert such rights? But what are these rights? For instance, crime victims would have the right to know about any proceedings involving the alleged criminal. They would have the right to know of any arrest, release, or escape of the accused.
If they wanted to, victims would have the right to speak at any court proceedings about the release, plea, or even sentencing of a defendant.
The amendment is named Marcy's Law after Marcy Nicholas. The California student seen here with her brother was murdered in 1983. A week later, her mother ran into the accused killer at a grocery store, unaware he had posted bail. Critics of this amendment feel that allowing victims to speak at early proceedings could infringe on the accused's right of innocence until proven guilty. Victims' rights groups feel that passing this amendment will give victims a voice and the right to be heard. For Grady News Source, I'm Maddie Ray.
Georgia is one of the 6 states where voters will be deciding on Marcy's Law during this upcoming election.
Grady News Source will be covering the election all night, November 6th, to give you results for Northeast Georgia and throughout the state.
Reporter Ben Epstein is live in the studio to preview our upcoming political coverage.
You guys, we are only 8 days away from the 2018 midterms, but before you freak out, let's catch you up on all the basics that you need to know. To begin, it's important to recall exactly what's up for election. These things will be statewide elections such as governor, which will be Stacey Abrams and Brian Kemp, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and secretary of state, and more. These terms will last for 4 years. Also, there will be state senate and house representatives, and these are 2-year terms. And then also there will be local jurisdictions such as county commissioners, board of education, and district supervisors. To remember going into the polls, the next governor elected will be a part of drawing new election district lines, and that will be after the 2020 census. And this will help determine the balance between Republicans and Democrats in Georgia for the future. Also, you should know that your polling place may have changed, or the number of polls in your county may have been reduced. And then also lastly, on Tuesday, you'll need to cast your vote from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or by Friday if you're doing early voting. But all is not needed to be worried about, because on Tuesday we'll have you covered with our News Source election show, and this will be all political coverage, expert panels, live coverage, and digital content, and it'll be covering your local and state elections. It'll be starting at 5 to 5:30, and then also reoccurring at 8 to 11 p.m. Back to you guys.
The murder spree inside a Pittsburgh synagogue is reverberating in Athens. A man opened fire inside the temple, killing 11 people. I spoke with a staff member at UGA's Hillel, which promotes Jewish life on college campuses.
Something like that happens to the Jewish community, it happens to all of us. I'm a part of that community, so it really hit home, and it's hit home to a lot of students here at UGA.
Mara Price is a staffer at the University of Georgia Hillel. She says what happened hundreds of miles away hit her as she walked to work this morning.
Just thinking, I work for a Jewish organization, and I don't want any of the students I work with to feel unsafe. It could have been any organization in any city.
People around the world are honoring the 11 victims killed inside the Tree of Life synagogue. Victims like 97-year-old Rose Mallinger.
What happened yesterday will not break us. It will not ruin us.
The alleged shooter, Robert Bowers, faces 29 federal charges, and the U.S. Attorney in Pittsburgh says he is seeking the death penalty.
The fact that this attack took place during a worship service makes it even more heinous.
Meanwhile, the local Athens Jewish community is planning a vigil in honor of the victims tomorrow evening.
So we're currently in the works of planning a vigil for Jewish students, for all students at UGA to come and take part of as a memorial to these people.
And we got word late this afternoon that the vigil for the Tree of Life victims will be at the Tate Student Center tomorrow from 4:30 until 5:15 p.m.
Another suspicious package bound for CNN was intercepted by postal authorities in Atlanta this morning. imminent danger to CNN Center since the package was discovered at the post office. Cesar Sayok, the man suspected of the sending at least 14 pipe bombs across the country, was arrested last week.
Parents, this Halloween pay special attention to your kids' candy. A Georgia town just south of Athens is finding some treats are not what they seem. The Dublin Police Department posted on Facebook warning people that they are discovering methamphetamine pills in their community. These pills are being disguised to look like typical sugar candies. If you find anything that seems suspicious this holiday season, you're encouraged to call 911.
A Facebook post claimed in Madison County that a bobcat was found in someone's home. Yes, a bobcat. Find out how they would deal with that situation in Athens-Clarke County at the Athens-Clarke County Animal Control.
Want to figure out how you can be a representative for a local farm?
New ruling to make sure all Georgians can cast their ballots. Plus,
don't ever ride to the polls? Well, there's no need to worry because a local Athens organization is providing free rides to Clarke County voters.
It's finally here, Halloween, the day that you can get buckets and buckets of candy. Coming up, I'll show you how you can put that candy to good use.
A UGA professor has a frightening encounter with an owl, and this is no Halloween story.
All of a sudden there was this thing slammed into the top of my head, and it's like I hollered. It's like, wow.
This is Northeast Georgia's only local source for TV news. From the Grady College at the University of Georgia, this is Grady News Source.
good afternoon and happy Halloween. I'm Caroline Elliott.
And I'm Jillian Gillard.
A federal judge has ordered that elections officials must accept absentee ballots even when the name and signature on those ballots don't exactly match. Grady News Source reporter Sage Bernard is at the Athens Board of Elections with this 11th hour ruling and efforts to get out the vote.
Up all week. Secretary of State Brian Kemp filed a motion to appeal the injunction by Judge Lee Martin May. She cited that it could harm public interest and that exact match might favor the opposing party. U.S. District Court judge declined to stop an injunction over exact match and absentee ballots. That means voter names don't have to reflect exactly what is on their voter registration. This likely means that more early voter absentee ballots will be counted. Early voting is in full swing here in Athens as students and residents alike line up at the polls.
A lot of people are taking their time off from work, which is really great, and going here to vote and using their lunch hour, which is really nice.
The Athens Economic Justice Coalition is making it easier for people to get out and vote. They are offering free rides all day to any Athens-Clarke County voter who calls into their office. They also provide pertinent information to voters.
To give them, we have a card that has all the candidates on there, all parties, and they look at it, and we also give them copies of sample ballots. We make sure our drivers have sample ballots.
They will be scouting out neighborhoods tomorrow with these signs on their cars in an attempt to find voters who don't know about the service. Lloyd says that their volunteers have even helped register voters.
We registered like 1,200 people since March in Athens-Clarke County. So we are very excited about getting people civically involved.
Early voting is happening through Friday all over Northeast Georgia area. These are all the available polling locations today through Friday in Athens-Clarke, Jackson, Oglethorpe, Oconee, and Barrow County. We also have this information posted on our website, GradyNewsSource.com. You can early vote right here for 2 more days from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. For Grady News Source, I'm Sage Bernard.
And after you vote, make sure you tune into our Grady News Source midterm election coverage. On Tuesday, November 6th, we'll be providing election results throughout the evening. Make sure to watch our election newscast at 5 p.m. and our special election coverage from 8 to 11 p.m.
If you're a parent, chances are your children are trick-or-treating tonight, and the last thing you would want is for your kids to knock on the wrong door. I sat down with Lieutenant Deanna Smith, who oversees the sex offender registry in Oconee County, and she told me there are resources to find sex offenders in your neighborhood.
Our main goal tonight is to keep your children safe, so we're going to be out there full force.
And you can take matters into your own hands. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation keeps the sex offender registry on their website. Just click where it says Sex Offender Search Page and select your county. From there, you can search your neighborhood. Lieutenant Smith says local sheriffs have the same information on their websites.
Each sheriff's office has notification, a way to notify their public of their sex offenders.
For example, the Oconee County Sheriff's website shows there are 16 registered sex offenders in the county. The GBI shows 140 in Barrow County and 147 in Jackson County. You can also sign up for alerts on the GBI's website to track sex offenders in your area. Just click on Community Notifications, and all you have to do from there is provide an email and address. Lieutenant Smith says deputies in Oconee County will still be on the lookout tonight.
We're going to be patrolling the neighborhood. Some of us will be in marked units, some of us will be in unmarked units, but we will be out there, and your children are our main priority tonight.
Lieutenant Smith says that all registered sex offenders who are on probation are expected to report to their probation officers tonight.
And before you head out the door, we have some advice on staying safe. Wearing masks that may obstruct your vision. If you are driving, remember children will be out trick-or-treating. Be on the lookout for anyone wearing dark clothing. If you are trick-or-treating with your children, try to stick to well-lit areas. Be sure to put away electronics while you are walking or driving, and pay attention to where you are going.
It happens every year. Children come home from a long night of trick-or-treating and find themselves with more candy than they could ever eat. Grady News Source reporter Maddie Ray tells us what you can do with all that extra candy.
This dentist's office is full of Halloween spirit. And for good reason. Athens Family Dental is offering to buy back children's Halloween candy.
You get $1 a pound, and we send the candy to the troops overseas.
I measured it out. It takes about 30 pieces of candy this size to reach a pound.
We end up with probably about 50 pounds of candy. So that's a lot of candy.
This is the 5th year the office has offered candy buyback, and they have no plans on stopping.
It's supporting our troops. Very meaningful as far as show our support to them.
And as far as the children, not only do they end up with a few extra bucks,
they're excited. They have money.
And they learn
not to eat so much candy.
Athens Family Dental will start accepting donations starting tomorrow, November 1st, and they will be collecting candy for 2 weeks.
The opening of the newly extended I-85 express lanes is this Saturday, November 3rd. There will be an additional 10 miles of toll lanes north of the existing I-85 express lanes at Old Peachtree Road. They will extend to Hamilton Mill Road as well. The lanes were designed to improve traffic flow, increase options for motorists, and bring economic benefits to the Gwinnett County area.